So, yeah. So, Chris, you are right now the CEO and co-founder of Cartograph, which is an agency focused on helping brands in the e-commerce space sell better on Amazon. And you focus on pet, food, and baby, I believe, which are really fun categories. And what I love about your experience is that you worked in consulting and management consulting at McKinsey for a few years before meeting John Wilbanks, our friend, and co-founded Cartograph. So yeah, super cool. It sounds like we can't have a better person to speak about the space than you.
Yeah. Thanks. It's really great to meet you and excited to jump in. Yeah, we actually started at Cartograph. We started as a food and beverage focused agency, and so we still have a number of food and beverage and supplement brands, and have grown more into pet and beauty and baby. But we stay pretty focused on
Mhm.
consumables. So stuff that where repeat purchase is important, the user, fundamentally consumes it, and
Mhm.
then and better for you or like a premium challenger brand type positioning. So
Mhm.
brands that are entering the market and trying to do something a little bit different. In many cases, it's healthier, more natural, or more better quality sourcing, and then see how they can take a foothold. And so a lot of the times, it's they find some kind of differentiation in the market.
Yeah, I see that in your portfolio are Justin's almond butter and Lily, which is like a less sugary alternative to chocolate. Both brands I love. So really cool that you're doing this. Tell me more about what you've done in the pet space.
Sure. So we've worked with some brands across pet over the last few years. Some of the big ones you might know. We work with I Am Loving You, the pet brand that has dog and cat foods across a number of different categories. And then we've worked in some pet accessories, so things like water bottles, leashes, um, and other kind of other accessories. And then we've also done some work with in cats specifically, made by Nacho, Bobby Flay's famous cats brand that came out in the last couple of years. And so work with actually a number of different um, pet influencer type brands or pet creator type brands, where either the animal or the owner is
We're influencers.
is famous in some way.
Oh, I'm sure that that's really helpful in getting a legs up in terms of customer acquisition and just awareness in general.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of the funny dynamics we work in food and beverage and supplements, and there's so many categories in those. Even drinks alone, there's so many different types of drinks. But fundamentally, when you're in pet food, there's not that many different types of things. Of course, you talk to real pet people, and there's tons of variants
Yeah.
and variations. But to the common person, there's kind of like wet, dry, toppers, treats, dog, cat, and so figuring out how to tell the message of how you're different or why you're different is is really tricky. And so having a built-in audience as a creator, or even having the audience gives you a head start in standing for something that enables you to have a real place in the market and start to drive some
Yeah,
volume.
cool. So today's topic would be focused on 5 tips for pet brands who are either launching or have recently launched on Amazon. Think of young brands who are in operation for maybe a year or two, or even people who are thinking of getting into this space. Pet seems to be growing a lot, but on Amazon, it also looks pretty competitive. So, what are your observations
Mhm.
for how we can win for Q2?
Sure. 5 tips. I have to come up with five.
Yeah.
Um, okay. So I think the first thing, the first place that I would start is being extremely solid on problem and solution definition in your products.
Okay.
What does your product actually stand for? And in a category like baby, where you kind of have a double consumer dynamic, you have the pet and the person purchasing.
Hmm.
Uh, your particular positioning needs to be super clear. And positioning to either or of those two stakeholders and the why, and it's often like a hybrid of the two. Right? What is it to the purchaser, and what is it to the pet? And I think it's a very obvious thing, but sometimes really pulling it out of your branding and saying like, you know what, for people who believe in this, for people for whom the pet has this role in their life, or this role in their house, or this kind of lifestyle. Um, Being really solid on that is, I think, super important, because that unlocks, I'd say, the next thing, which is your visual storytelling, which is going to be really important.
Mm.
With any category that's fast growing, but like has a lot of innovation that's pretty technical, it can be pretty hard to attract new consumers who might not have the technical chops to understand some of like the differentiating, really advanced attributes of your product. And so taking that differentiated positioning and then finding a way to tell the story in a compelling way in your content, is something really worth taking time to think about, taking time to
Mm.
brainstorm. A few different angles with it. So one thing we always do with content is try to, on Amazon you get that tiny little image, right?
Right.
And try to use that as a canvas as much as possible to tell your story. So Amazon guidelines say you should just be a clear image of your product. We say image of the product in at least one container, often two containers. So like the can in front of the case with a sample of food outside of it. Now
Okay.
you've told like three different dimensions of the product, and you're able to show texture, color, and then you can use all of those different surfaces to tell other differentiating features or just show off some of your different branding. And
Oh.
so, yeah, in a world that feels competitive, what you're doing is you're competing for clicks, you're competing for eyeballs, and Amazon's going to merchandise your product next to a lot of similar products. And so anything you can do to show exactly what your product is and show how it is different, is super helpful.
Yeah, I love that. It always goes back to branding, why you're doing this, and how you're telling story to your to your target audience, regardless of product. I feel like, whether it's pet industry, baby, or any other kind of industry, this applies. I really love this. And in your experience, are a lot of these pet brands, are they working with branding agencies, marketing agencies to kind of craft the story, or sometimes not necessarily, and they're able to get started on their own?
Yeah, I don't think you need to. A lot do. A lot of our clients do, or we're lucky enough to work with some venture fund brands who push people to this. And the advantage you get with a branding agency is you get people who have done that work of telling that story time and time again. Like, what is it that the product really is for? What does it really stand for? How do we make that pop? Um, and so there are questions you can ask yourself as a, if you're just an owner, what are those things? And some stuff, I think, there's a lot of opportunity in pet particularly to get, savvy on on visual merchandising.
Mhm.
Like even on some of the bigger brands, it's pretty hard to tell like which products apply to like which product families. Stuff that's a little bit more solved in, I think beauty does a really good job, where like certain product families will be color coded, or certain
Mhm.
treatment types, or think of like hair types, skin types, things like that. But in pet, giving that visual merchandising to help people self identify for where they land as a consumer is another way for you to think about, your branding, and then take that to the next step and figure out how you display that on a marketplace like Amazon.
Okay. You mentioned people are competing for clicks and eyeballs to start. So this is like the acquisition part of the PPC campaigns and the listing optimization work that you guys do on Amazon. In your experience, because you guys are working with consumables, how many purchases does it take to acquire a customer for life?
Ooh, that's a good question. If I didn't answer that question, my job would be a lot easier, I'd say. But yeah, it's pretty tricky to answer that question. What we will often do in our campaigns is really try to unpack the purchase behavior of how people engage with your brand over time. So it's kind of like flipping your question in reverse. What
Okay.
we do is we say, okay, what does people who buy more than once? We basically reverse engineer it.
Okay.
Where do they start? Then where do they go to? Like, and we try to prove like what's a good entry point for a certain type of consumer. Where should they begin to like prove that they like the brand? Because oftentimes
Mm.
you get in with the right product and they're a lot more willing to cross sell to other parts of your catalog.
Mm.
And so one brand in particular, what we do, and I think really important on Amazon is anchoring your strategy in major tentpole days.
Mm.
We had just had Pet Day, which we should talk
Yeah.
about, and Prime Day coming up. And what we do is we pick the product that we know is a really good entry point and make sure that one sits on top of our shelf for those major days, and then that lets us know that someone's that increases the chance that someone becomes a shopper for life.
Oh, okay. Cool. Yeah, I want to hear more about Pet Day. How did it go?
Yeah, Pet Day was great. So Pet Day was almost a month ago. It was the end of the first week of May. Um, I think it was Amazon has not done Pet Day's been a newer thing in the Amazon world, but we have found it to be actually even more effective than Prime Day or Black Friday
Mm.
for our pet clients. And you can kind of guess as to why. You're not competing for share of wallet. You're not competing for share of just of screen when promoting the products. But the cool thing about tentpole days, so we had brands that experienced, and we measure the success of major sales days in terms of a multiple of average daily sales. And so we had days that were 10 to 20 times an average daily sale on pet day. So you
Wow.
basically make your whole month on pet day. And it's, yeah, if you feel good about your repeat analytics or, what the lifetime value is, it's a great way to get yourself in front of new customers. That's what's really nice about tentpole days. On an everyday shopping day, your product probably has, I don't know, half dozen search terms that you're competing for. But those consumers, they're pretty tough to win. They're in market. They probably already have their own biases. Versus a day like Pet Day or Prime Day or Black Friday, you
Right.
have people who might not conventionally shop that category on that channel. It might be someone who only buys electronics on Amazon, but then they're like, oh, you know what? I could get pet stuff here, and I might give this a brand because Amazon puts it on their front page because Amazon serves it up to them
Okay.
in recommendations. And so it's a really good place to get in front of new audiences rather than just people who shop pet in it on Amazon all the time.
That's a good idea. How would a pet brand qualify for Pet Day, and how does the team at Amazon make that selection of who to push?
Yeah, so it's actually pretty easy to participate. If you What we usually do is our favorite merchandising right now is something called Prime Exclusive Discounts or PEDs, and these are just they're basically tentpole day specific coupons. And so if you offer one of those, you automatically get put onto one of the on like the deals page or the PEDs page. And the way to think about a tentpole day is fundamentally what Amazon does is they have all these people who arrive at Amazon.com, and they have to choose how to send products to those people, fill up all the different pages. And so on the way that they typically do it is they prioritize products that perform really well. So the best sellers tend to get to the top, but it's not just the best sellers, right? It's also they always give a range. Like, here's all the popular things in the category. Here's other people who like this might like this product, and so your job as a brand is to make sure that you rank relatively high in sales volume relative to your peers ahead of one
Mm.
of those days. And so what we'll do is we'll do what we call like a 30-day lead-in campaign, where we try to increase the sales of our products um, in the run-up to a tentpole day. And so what happens is once the tentpole day hits, your share of the traffic that Amazon distributes to all the different brands is bigger because you've kind of ramped up your momentum and gotten to a higher placement within your category. And so we'll do that, and it just gives you a larger share. Say you were getting like say you're in a specific small category and you're getting like a third of a percent of traffic.
Mm.
If traffic jumps like 10x, all of a sudden that's pretty meaningful jump in traffic. And so if you can increase that share a little bit ahead of time, it's really worth the investment. The other thing that we'll do is after the day specifically, you try to ride out that increased momentum, and you try to make sure you target the people who got to your page but didn't check out. Oftentimes, a lot of people shop, they add stuff to cart, but then they don't check out. They just leave it there, come back later. And
Mm.
so we'll do things like do lead out coupons. So if someone had something in their cart, the deal may have gone away, but there's still something that can help them, get them across the line, or they might revisit the product, or Amazon might say, hey, you looked at this, but you didn't check out. Having something there to get them to convert can be really helpful. So Prime Day is probably like 5 weeks away.
Okay.
They haven't announced the official date. 5 or 6 weeks away. It's usually the second week of July or thereabouts. And so now is the time to be making sure you have inventory, trying to increase your rank within your category,
Mhm.
and planning all of your different promos.
Speaking of categories, I don't know if any of your clients have been experiencing this, but myself, my pet memorial brand on Amazon, and also the seller community that I'm part of, we've kind of been experiencing like Amazon, maybe they have an algorithm that's like automatically understanding what our products are regardless of what we tell them, and then changing the category. And then for some reason, no matter how many times we work with our brand manager at Amazon to change it back, it gets changed back to the incorrect category again. So I'm curious, categories seem to play a really important role in terms of ranking exposure, but at the same time, how can sellers prepare to help the algorithm better understand their product?
Yeah, really tricky topic here. So there's a few different things to unpack. So the first off is Amazon has a lot of algorithmic rewriting of their platform, not just category, but they're actually doing a lot of rewriting of content. Even some of it being done by AI now, and we have like cases where you get really bad suggestions. So really bad suggestions, sometimes non-compliant or technically illegal suggestions if you make like disease claims you can't for a supplement and things like that. So I think it's just kind of part of the world. Um, the way to think about categorization on Amazon is so one is your content will suggest a similarness to a certain category. And so if you're not in the category you want to be, it's probably worth looking at your content and like all your different descriptions and going into your back end and saying like, okay, is there anything in here that an algorithm could conclude belongs in a different category? So that's one side of it. It's like comb your content and like I always think categorization is always a little bit of an exercise in humility. Like in our food world, every snack brand wants to compete with Cheetos.
Hmm.
Cheetos has never lost. Cheetos is undefeated. Because like I'm, you're making a healthy snack. I'm sorry, it's just not going to taste as good as Cheetos. And
Yeah.
so like making sure like okay, even though I think my product is like way better than Blue Buffalo, is that actually the right comparison? So considering that, the other thing I'll say is one major thing for category is observing whether or not you convert better in that category than in another. And so the dynamic I was describing before with like tentpole days is actually relevant here, where when you're in category A, when Amazon sends you organic traffic, they'll tend to merchandise you next to products in category A. If you're in category B, they'll merchandise you next to products in category B. Regardless of which one you like better, you will tend to click slightly better compared to a certain peer set. And so there's like two observations on that. One is really think about, look at the two categories, look at, pull up the top 25 to 50 and say like, you know what, like do I actually command pretty good click share here, even though they're not my favorite comparison? Would this make sense? And then the other is, and it's like some things to consider too. You might not like the category, but your review volume might be far more comparable, or your price point might be far more comparable than like, you're in the giant big category, but everyone's like a quarter of your price, has 100,000 reviews. Pretty tough to compete. Um, then the other thing is what you can control. Look between category A and B. Could you change your content to better match that category? That would better like make us believe that you'd convert when when merchandise next to those peers. So I know I said a lot there to answer your very simple question on why Amazon keeps breaking things, but yeah, there's a lot to think about in terms of just like how Amazon works.
I think that's actually a really good point. It's a good reminder to not be so fixated on I must be in this category, but maybe taking a step back and thinking, okay, it's not my number one favorite category, but the target audience is similar and I can maybe win out a little bit compared to the others here. So maybe I'll stay. And then if the decision is to not stay, then perhaps the strategy is to really evaluate the content and think about how to rewrite it so that AI can better understand. Have you had your clients try the I believe it's called AI Listing Creator? Is that a feature that Amazon offers?
Yep. So Amazon has rolled out a number of AI content writers and content creator type tools, and they're generally a pretty good place to start. You know, I think in the same way, probably many of us have tried Chat GPT to help with writing emails, letters, contracts, boring stuff we don't care about, um, a full range. And so I think Amazon's pretty good at the content AI is probably pretty good. But yeah, I mean, what I mentioned before is sometimes they will include things you don't want.
Mm,
So you definitely want to check it. And then one of the things that I fundamentally believe too is, content writing uh, is a creative function, right? And fundamentally, like average art is not that hard to make, but really good art is
right.
is challenging to make. And so it's your opportunity to differentiate. And so we spend a lot of time like on word economy. Like, could we make this more clear? Could we make this more straight up? And so um, AI is not AI can be really helpful for that. And in fact, some of our team uses it for things like, hey, take this sentence and make it a maximum of X number of words. That's actually super good use of AI for
Mm,
content on a place like Amazon is take a statement and meet a word count. And you can say, give me 10 examples
mm.
of this sentence in this word count. And then like, include this keyword, don't include this keyword, things like that to help you brainstorm. But I think, yeah, you really want to work at it, use the AI to work at getting to art that's above average.
Right. I feel like we already have five, but I got more. I got
Let's
more
keep
questions
going.
for you. Yeah, we're killing it. So we talked about coupons, pricing. I remember when we first chatted, we talked about margins. So, one of the biggest complaints to people who perhaps are very used to selling on Shopify, Etsy, not Amazon, is oh my gosh, my margins are going to be eroded if I do FBA. There's 30 to 40% fulfillment, returns, storage. And then on top of that, I have to spend anywhere between 10% and 50% on advertising. What are your thoughts on margins?
Yeah, so your breakdown isn't wrong to start. Uh, there's no secret or magic to margins. I think the key thing is make sure you understand them, go in with open eyes, and make sure that your margin is set up in a way that works for your business in total. So usually that means make sure that your pricing and advertising aspiration is like at a level that's sustainable for your business. You can sometimes do things to optimize the other pieces. Like sometimes you could have like an inefficient pack size
Mm,
that causes your fulfillment costs to go up. So you can look at that. And but yeah, I mean, the other thing to think about is what purpose each channel serves. So usually for most brands, Amazon tends to serve a. Well, I'll give a few examples. So 10 years ago, most people launched on Amazon. Amazon was their primary and perhaps only channel because you could do all these SEO hacks. You get a ton of traffic. There weren't that much to spend on ads, and it was very profitable. Fast forward to today, not as true. It's like
mm,
ads are a lot more expensive. You know, 10 years ago, most of the big players in major categories weren't on Amazon, than they are now. And
mm,
so the role that Amazon often plays is it is a higher margin contributing supporter of other e-commerce channels. So one thing we'll say is if you are spending, say you're spending $100,000 a month on paid social outside of Amazon. So if you're spending on that, you usually will get 0.25 or a quarter of that spend as organic sales on Amazon. And so having Amazon good, having it convert well, helps you capture all the work that you're spending driving up volume on your D2C site. Now, if you go to Amazon, you could just harvest that 25%, that 25K. And so then you have a choice of, okay, but like I get this 25. Could I use that to build on? Could I use that to do the like ranking game thing we talked about earlier? But it's like maybe I'm big enough, the reviews are good that I can play for share. And so you start to advertise. And so at that point, um, you you enter like the channel having a slightly different purpose. Like this could actually be a net acquisition channel.
mm,
Um, and if that's the case, if you're able to drive a lot of new to brand traffic just by being a player in the category, then your acquisition aspiration could be different. Um,
mm,
there there could be like a third frontier where, and this tends to be only when you're a much bigger brand, when you've kind of like exhausted a lot of the conversion oriented channels across the internet, and you're like, we're just going to build this brand as an awareness play. And so you might start doing like TV ads, top of funnel DSP, audience
mm,
targeting. And so with that, those tend to be even lower on like basic ROAS conversion basis. But then you like look at the total P&L of your business in order to justify some of that spend. And so all this is a long-winded way to say like the channel can have it's I think it's important to look at both individual unit economics, but also total channel P&L. Because like if you're getting that 25% organic, your channel P&L is going to be pretty good. If you're spending a lot on your ads, your channel isn't going to be as good. And there are actually brands in some categories. I think like kibble in particular is a very challenging category
mm.
because of how heavy it is and how bulky it is. that it may actually not even serve as a profit center for you. Like you may
Mhm.
operate it at very slim margins, just as a way to like spread the word and make sure you're able to serve all different consumers. So margins will vary a lot, and I'd
Mhm.
say look at your individual unit economics, look at the total channel economics, and then ask yourself, what role is it actually playing in my total brand building efforts?
Yeah, I think it's really interesting and important nowadays to really not think about a certain channel or platform in a vacuum because today it's all about omni-channel. A consumer might see dog food and try for the first time in Whole Foods, but then once they're converted, they might go back to Amazon to keep purchasing because it's easy for delivery. And then once they become a really heavy user and they need a lot more and they need some bulk discounts, they might actually have enough trust to order directly from the website. So I think it makes a lot of sense to think about it not as like a single channel, not like a primary channel where you're gonna make millions and retire, but more like how do I use it for acquisition and for continued branding to help my other channels?
Yeah, what one thing we do with our clients sometimes is say, okay, what is the cost of a marginal acquisition? So
Mm,
you've got your DSC site, you got your Amazon, maybe you're on Chewy. If I had an extra, let's call it $10, how much sales would I get on each channel? And so what it kind of forces you to do is like find an equilibrium balance between the channels, and you say because the P&L might not tell the whole story. It
right.
might be that you're actually capped out on efficient spend, and so the P&L looks super good, but then
Hmm.
your next dollar doesn't actually result in sales, and so it's really inefficient. And so that's another thing to consider is like marginal dollar, like would it actually drive more sales, or are you at a place where like I'm actually at carrying capacity for this channel um, in my um, in my business, and that can happen especially if you're like in a very innovative or newer category where there's you may have tapped out the volume on certain channels.
And you're kind of forced to expand.
Yeah, you have to go somewhere else because like basically you can only pay
Mm,
money to get in front of people who probably aren't interested in your stuff or who are there for other reasons.
yeah, that's fair. What do your clients do with pricing? So I want to share an example in the memorial space. So I have a cremation jewelry line for pets for pet ashes, and so on Amazon, maybe at most I can sell one simple sterling silver necklace for like $30 to $50 per piece. And then if I charge more, then I might not have as much exposure and conversion on Amazon. And then I go to some D2C websites as I'm evaluating, okay, should I launch this on my Shopify? I look at my competitors who are charging like $150 for the same jewelry. And then I think they're probably not going to be able to launch successfully on Amazon unless they lower their price at launch. But then at that point, when the consumer be like, okay, if I can buy it for $30 on Amazon, why would I pay 150 here for the same thing?
Yeah, so it's pretty tricky. The thing that I've consistently been surprised by is Amazon is a less efficient market than you would expect. But when I say
Mm,
efficient, I mean like econ 101 pricing efficient. Consumers are price sensitive, but not that price sensitive, and the market actually clears at a lot of different price levels. And so we work pretty much exclusively with premium price products
okay.
in some way. More expensive drink, more expensive food, more expensive accessory.
Mm,
Not necessarily luxury, but just more expensive. And so, um, understanding the price sensitivity of your particular product. Actually, I think jewelry is a pretty interesting one because like there is actually a such a wide range
right.
of of jewelry prices that people buy a lot of,
Mm,
and compare that to like a beverage. Like basically nobody buys a beverage more than $5 a unit. It's like impossible. And so in that one, you like really have to compete. But I think in your case,
mm,
if you are able to tell this, you know, have better content, have good quality reviews, show that it's a little bit different, show that it's a little bit more interesting, especially that you're selling a product that has a lot of sentimental value and personal importance to people. I think there's probably a good play in holding the line
Mm,
with with pricing. Like you will probably not be, although it's not, there are plenty of examples where you could be. You might not be the highest volume item, but you actually might be able to carve out a nice niche of people who don't want the very low cost or the very simple option, which might not be as good quality.
oh, that's interesting. So you wouldn't necessarily have all of your premium product clients launch at a lower price point just to be able to compete against existing competitors who have a lot of reviews. It's okay to launch at a premium price point for what it's worth.
Yep, I always say it's not the perfect application, but different is better than better.
Okay.
Because like better requires that someone takes your word for it that it's better, but if it's like really different, then you give them the option to make a choice.
Mm,
And
yeah.
so if there's two $40 items, one has 1,000 reviews and one has 100 reviews,
Mm,
your choice is pretty clear. But if there's a $40 item and a $60 item, and the $60 item also has 100 reviews and the $40 item has 1,000 reviews, someone might say like, you know what, I'm going to go this different route. Like it makes sense. It
mm,
has fewer reviews. It's more expensive. So like
mm.
showcasing differentness can sometimes be a strength.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I love that point of view. I think that's going to be the number five for 2024 is it's really not in this world where people are inundated with options. How can you be different and like own your difference?
Right, yeah. Because otherwise, you're just going to be a second-rate Cheeto,
Mm.
and we all know Cheetos Cheetos are undefeated. So
Cheetos is so good.
right.
I don't think I've had any. Like I tried the Trader Joe's cheese puffs and like a couple other cheese puffs, just like not the same.
They're not bad
Yeah.
products. They're okay, but they,
Yeah. Speaking of reviews, what are your thoughts and what kind of advice are you giving on to clients on reviews? There's obviously Vine. Amazon's
Mhm.
getting super strict. I mean, Google as well. All these platforms are getting very strict about inauthentic reviews that are coming from friends and family. So, how are your clients today ranking up reviews for new products?
Yeah, so it's tricky. You want to be very careful that you don't cross the line or violate a bunch of rules in in fake reviews. Yeah, and Amazon. I think the thing about like friends and families, think about it like people probably have the experience on LinkedIn, where like
Mm,
somebody recommends your like second grade carpool neighbor
mm,
as a friend on LinkedIn. It's like, how in the world did they know that we were connected? Amazon has similar networks of people between users.
right.
That's actually how they identify. And so that's to be cautious about is like your immediate circle. But yeah, definitely recommend Vine. Even if the reviews aren't perfect, if you have a product that you know is going to be very controversial, then
Mm,
maybe not. But most of the time, I recommend Vine. And then what I also often say is like your next round of reviews is like pure hustle.
mm,
Like every customer you talk to is someone you could ask for a review. Like every person you see at an expo is someone you could ask for a review. You could,
mm,
turn it into, if you were to pay for a review service, like a really good quality one, they cost, including the cost of sampling the product for free, they cost hundreds of dollars, maybe $100, $200. So they're pretty expensive. And so every time you talk to somebody,
mm.
just hustling out a review, saying, "Hey, would you be interested in this? Like, would you leave a review?" Doesn't usually cost that much, and
Interesting.
yeah, I think it's a good way to capitalize on how much work you're doing spreading the word.
Yeah. So you mean it's okay, it's not illegal in the Amazon world to hire a review service? How do those work?
So you have to be very careful with them. because there are ones that are cheap that will violate the terms of service, and
Mm,
they all operate in the gray area. So I
okay.
so I want to be careful in like just recommending them.
Okay.
But what you can do is you can basically hire people who run sampling programs that then suggest people to leave a review, and so
Mm,
they're and so they'll give samples of the product, and then those people will be asked to leave a review,
mm,
and like you get in trouble when you pay them for the review, or like you don't let the reviews be honest or things like that.
mm.
Um, but there are services that exist out there that will
Okay.
will help with that. But they're pretty
Oh, interesting.
expensive.
Okay. Can brands run their own sampling programs?
So, we're getting into Amazon gray territory here, but my honest answer is yes.
Okay.
And here's how I would think about it. Basically, you're asking for like honest customer feedback. You're doing
Mm,
customer research, and you're asking people who are actually trying your product to give you feedback.
okay.
Um, if you're going to do it, you want to be careful. Like, you want people not to have any affiliation with the brand. You don't want them all to review the same day at once.
Mm,
But like, there are ways that you can do that with like your email list. Where you're like, hey, we're testing this new product. Will you give it a shot?
mm.
Um, and and giving sampling out like that.
Okay. So it sounds like the key is to make sure that these are these are true people that we might target as customers. They might receive free products, but we in no way require them to write a good review. All we ask is, we don't even ask, we're like, all we suggest is that they write an honest review, that we don't interfere with the content whatsoever.
Yep, that's exactly right.
Okay. That's really good to know. I've been just so worried about suggesting that my friends write me a review, or even customers. So yeah, this is really good to know. It sounds like Vine is an option for people who want to launch a non-controversial product, and then of course run their own sampling program. And then if they want to deal with this themselves, then they would hire a high quality sampling program.
Yep. And one last thing you mentioned, your customers. Like
Yeah.
one thing I always say is even startup brands tend to have super fans, people who really love the
Hmm.
brand,
Right.
and those people will probably leave you a review if you ask them.
Yeah.
And their reviews are actually like they're not biased. They're actually people who like the plot. It's actually like a helpful review on the Amazon platform.
Hmm.
And so that can often be a place to look to if your core customer base. You're saying, hey, thanks for being such a supporter. Like, do you ever buy on Amazon? Will you leave us a review? Because they're normal paying customers.
Oh, okay. And do they have to buy a product in order to leave a review on Amazon, or it's okay if they bought somewhere else and then went to review?
Um, it is okay if they bought something else. You get a verified purchase badge if they do. So it's better if they do
Mhm.
on
Right.
Amazon.
Okay. Yeah, that's fair. This reminds me of one of our super fans. Her name is Erica. She bought one of our pet urns that works as a home decor, and it's so cute that she loves it, and she every like holiday, like for example for Halloween, she's dressed up the urn as if how she would dress up the her chihuahua. And
Oh
we'll get like
wow!
photos from her saying, "Oh, this is her in a Spider-Man outfit."
All right. Oh,
Yeah.
that's so sweet.
Yeah, I
That's
know.
so
That's
sweet.
pretty funny. I'm definitely gonna reach out to Erica for that.
Right. And
Okay.
you could be
Yeah,
like,
awesome.
Erica, we want your photo of the dressed up urn on Amazon.
Yes. Oh my gosh, that's a great idea. Thank you for that. And today, as we wrap up, I want to end with customer engagement and building a community and amplifying the superfans, replicating those experiences is, I guess, sometimes tricky for Amazon sellers, because Amazon has strict rules around, we can't really link our website on our brand profile on Amazon. There are also rules around the inslip, exactly what we can say. So what's your top recommendation for 2024 for how we can get in touch with our customers after they purchase?
Sure. So one good way is Amazon has actually started letting you do things called brand tailored promotions,
Okay.
which lets you send specific coupons to people who have engaged with your brand or bought from your brand before.
Okay.
That's like probably the best way to to do so, and attract them in a direct way. Like with inserts, you can usually get like a maybe a 2% scan rate. So even though you get contact info and that can be helpful, like maybe you sometimes brands really like to create like a VIP customer feedback group or like um, and so that can be helpful
Mm.
as a way to create those and a way to
Mm.
send people on deal days, for example, really amplifies how much merchandising you get if a lot of people come to the page that day. Um, so that can be a good way to build it, but you have to really do it over time, and then figure out when to use that list
Do
from Amazon.
people like how often do customers actually notice that there's a QR code or some sort of link on the inserts and actually join?
Um, well, yeah. So we get like 1 to 3% scans.
Oh, okay.
We'll do stickers on the product
Yeah.
that that like join our list or we love your feedback or that kind
Okay.
of thing and we'll do like an enter to win free product kind of
Oh
thing
yeah. Oh, those are fun ideas.
and then you can
Mhm.
send them more deals or you can send them communication.
Okay. Sounds good. Cool. Awesome. Yeah, I think that brings us to the end. Is super helpful having you on here. Fun conversation as always. I wanna end with hot take. If there was one product you would launch in 2025, what would it be?
Ooh. If there's one product I would launch in 2025, what would it be? Um, This is such a hard question because we look at like 500 products a year,
Yeah,
so I
I
kind of
imagine.
run out of ideas.
It's gotta be
I mean,
really good.
right? It's got to be really good. Let me give you a few. Let me give you a few. So one, skincare and sunscreen are extremely hot. Like
Okay.
people are taking care of their skin um, in a
Hmm.
more than ever. Like I think yeah, maybe even like a men focused skincare line could be pretty interesting.
Ooh,
Men focused sun care line. Sorry.
wow.
Um, I supplements. There's some cool stuff like magnesium glycinate has been a top search term on Amazon all year. It's a big
Oh,
TikTok
interesting.
trend, as is creatine.
Okay.
And so people are looking for supplements that really help them help them feel better on a day to day basis. Magnesium glycinates for sleep.
Oh, okay.
And then
Cool.
I've always loved the tattoo category. I don't even have any tattoos, but I think the tattoo category is a really cool category, which is like it is uh, reasonably expensive.
Mm.
Almost people do it like in medical tourism. It is super personal, super
Wow.
sentimental. And if you think about all the products and services that serve the industry, they're pretty old school and they don't actually match with the fact that most tattoos go to
Hmm.
women.
Ooh, interesting. So what kind of product? Like ink and laser pen?
I would probably do like tattoo care products.
Okay. Taking
Yeah,
notes.
rather than in the studio.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know enough to be in the studio. Is the
Right.
thing. So
That's really cool. I'm gonna look into these categories and yeah, this is hopefully inspiration for the community. Thank you so much, Chris.
for sure, it's been great chatting with you.
Yeah, it's great. So if people need to find you, I'm guessing LinkedIn or Cartograph if they want an audit. are the best places?
Yeah, LinkedIn's probably the best place to go
Okay.
first. You can look for me,
All right.
Chris Moe, or Cartograph. We post content there um, multiple times a week, actually. Amazon tips, what's going on in the industry,
Nice.
and so forth. Not AI written, um,
They're written
and
by you, right? Most of the time.
yeah, written by me. I have some help, but always written and edited by me. And
Yeah.
then you can also find us on our website, www.gocartograph.com, or you can just add me on LinkedIn, or you can
Yeah.
email me. I'm Chris at gocartograph.com.
Sounds good. Hope to have you back soon. Thank you so much, Chris.